As I saw that my daughter was starting to lose her Spanish, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I made the decision to home educate them. And I world schooled them for 6 years. It was a full commitment to saying that the world is their best classroom, that keeping their Spanish alive was worth building our whole educational approach around it. And that's what we did. My daughters are now 15 and 17, and they're multilingual. So we have Spanish, they're fluent in Spanish, fluent in Welsh. We now live in Wales, in North Wales. They speak French, and of course they have English. It's because language was always for them in context. That whole experience is the entire foundation of Adventures in Spanish. So everything that I teach today through Adventures in Spanish, every course I design, every immersion trip that we run, it all comes from having lived the language like I lived it with my children and my own experiences in South America. And because I know in my bones what it takes to raise a bilingual child. And I know what it feels like when it actually works. So when families come to me and say, we want our children to speak Spanish, I understand exactly what they mean. And I know exactly how to help them get there because I've done it twice. So Adventures in Spanish, I started it almost organically, really. And initially it was about funding our lifestyle and keeping the girls learning the Spanish and getting the money together for the van. And so I was teaching a few families, I was teaching some local face-to-face classes and a few online lessons. And the word just started to spread. And very quickly, it became something much bigger than just a way to fund our lifestyle. It became a mission for me because every family that I worked with reminded me of why it matters so much. So the joy on a child's face when they realise that they can actually communicate in another language, the pride that you feel as a parent when you watch them, order their food or their churros or their helado for the first time, that never gets old. I relive those experiences a lot, especially with the students that I take on the immersion trips when they're so reserved in the beginning. They don't want to go into the panaderia. They don't want to order the helado. They don't want to order the churros. But when they do it for the first time and they break down that barrier, it never gets old. So today we run around 10 online live Zoom classes for home educating, homeschooling, world schooling children from ages 6 to 18. We have their small group classes for up to 10 children. I also have self-paced courses. So these are holiday courses, a beginner's course that families can do together with their children. I'm a 2-time published bilingual author, by the way, as well. So I've published children's books as well along the way. I get my students involved in the project. We also run one-to-one classes. So children who are preparing for exams, they need some extra one-to-one support. We provide all of that online. I'm most proud of my immersion trips. I've been delivering these classes since 2014. The whole ethos really is being able to get out there in the community and speak the Spanish with the Spanish people. 4 years ago, I partnered with a language school in Malaga, and I've been running immersion trips to Malaga ever since. There's usually around 25 students that come on each trip, and the students stay with a local Spanish family. So they wake up in the morning and they have their breakfast with their Spanish family. Then we meet at the language school. We have the Spanish lessons. We have a couple of hours in the morning in the classroom, but then we're out and about. We visit the local mercadillo. We do some interviews with people in El Parque. We go to the beach. Then we stop for lunch, and in the afternoon we have some activities, so cooking classes, sports on the beach, visit to the city, the Alcazaba, all of that. And it's all in Spanish. And it's quite incredible to see the children on day one really nervous and shy and not really knowing anybody and not knowing if they want to speak the Spanish or not. And every day at 11 o'clock we have a break and we go over to the panaderia across the road, and that's the first opportunity for the children to actually speak Spanish to somebody. I always get such fabulous feedback from parents about those first experiences. They come out, it's like it's transformative. It's like they go into the panaderia, one child, and they transform